If you haven't seen The Walking Dead, don't watch this video. I don't think or live beyond season 8. If you're wondering why I've said that at the start of this episode, but anyway, so where do I start? For everyone else that's watching this episode as a part of Beyond the Wall, thank you so much for tuning in. Anyone that did see this kind of weird merged intro and decided to come here, I appreciate that very much because this is huge. This theory is massive. I mean, I've even written it down on paper. The funny thing is I've already kind of spoken about some of this. Kind of. But not really. I briefly touched on it and my theory has completely defined itself now. Now let me just say this. This theory has multiple possibilities. The first thing I want to start off by saying is in relation to something I said I think in the last episode, and that's about what is said at the start of an episode. So at the start of, I can't remember which episode it was, but when Carl was going out looking for things and there was that guy there that sounded a bit bonkers, and he went to go help him and then Rick scared him off and blah 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 blah, and then toward the end of the episode we see him again. When I was editing an episode, there was a very little line that popped up. It was this guy saying it. He was telling a story about someone saying, "My mercy prevails over my wrath." When I heard that, at first I was like, oh, like, I didn't really understand what he was saying. But then of course we get the scene with Rick, and the scene of Rick at some point is of him saying that exact quote. When we get this weird flash forward to whatever's to come, something traumatic is coming, right? Rick literally says those exact words. When I noticed that while editing, I was like, for God's sakes, okay, so I've just made a connection which can't be coincidence. Something involving Rick and something involving that guy, something potentially involving Carl, something involving this whole thing that's going on, the war, the plan, everything. Since making that connection, my brain has been all over the place worrying about what that means. Then we see the two graves, and my original theory had been that what I said in the episode was, if anything is going to send Rick back to that state, and I'm talking the state of like tears, eyes completely red, like broken Rick, and almost Rick to delusion. Like we've seen Rick in delusion before when Laurie passed away. That Rick that we were kind of getting a weird glimpse of into the future, you know, like that Rick, the only way possible that I imagined that happening would be if someone incredibly close to him died, i.e. Michonne, i.e. Carl, i.e. Judith. Those are the only ones that I can imagine sending Rick to that state. I don't think it can be anyone and everyone that sends him back there. And my gut feeling is the two people that are going to die are going to be Carl, Edith, Judith. Well, it's got to be two of the three, in my opinion. Those are the ones that I'm imagining, unless it's going to be Carl and someone else. This brings me to my theory, because when I started theorizing that, I kept telling myself, no, it's not going to happen. I kept saying, there's no way, I'm not going to stand for this. If they do that, it's going to really infuriate me. Anyway, so that's where that connection lies, and that's why I was paranoid. That's why all of this is coming out. That's why this whole theory has developed, because those two lines merging up, and then my view on what could break Rick like that again. Where it continues, oh my gosh, Gregory, when he returned to Hilltop, said, Negan already knows everything. I haven't done anything to affect your plan. Negan already knew. The only way I can imagine that possible, the only way, is if Dwight had failed on keeping his alliance with us. The funny thing is my brain goes, Dwight hates Negan more than anyone. He wouldn't do that for anything. What would make Dwight do that? Why would he all of a sudden then just stop and betray us? Especially considering he knows that this is probably one of the only chances, if not the only chance, that he has of breaking free of this Negan stuff. Well, avenging his partner and doing these things and finding his previous self and like making good right and doing right and trying to feel like less guilty about his past and all these different things. There's only one thing I can imagine that would stop him doing that, is if Negan found Dwight's wife. And I started thinking to myself, if Negan found Dwight's wife, brought her back, he would probably argue that someone needed to die, right? Maybe even Dwight. Maybe Dwight's partner, because Negan has a history of punishing other people. Dwight told Negan that he had killed his wife, which means if she had returned or had been found or whatever, Negan's gonna know Dwight lied to him. Now who's Negan gonna punish? Dwight. not the girl. He would go after breaking Dwight down. That would, I mean, either killing or doing something serious to his partner. That's all I can imagine, right? To really whip him back into place. So that leads me to believe that potentially, I'm not saying this has happened, I hope it hasn't, and I pray that Dwight is still in on this, on our side, and all these different things. I pray it. The only other person I can imagine being a leak is Gabriel. No, because it can't be Gabriel, because Gabriel was captured after Gregory sort of knew. No, it can't be Gabriel. So yeah, this theory stands. Dwight would then betray us, because the only thing that matters more to him than avenging all these different things and changing and doing better would be his wife. That's the only thing I can imagine. Everything else, like, he doesn't care too much about himself, but if she was at risk again and in threat, he's gonna do something to save her, right? So Dwight tells Negan everything. Dwight has betrayed us. I can only imagine him doing it to protect his loved one. That's just a weird theory I had in my brain. I'm like, she's come back, hasn't she? And he's betrayed us because he doesn't have a choice. That completely leads into this whole other theory of mine. I believe what may have happened, Negan had sat there and gone, look, because obviously, as you guys know, a lot about my views on Negan has changed recently. A lot. About the practicality of what he's doing, about his morality and all these different things that's changed. And how I see that this war is like a loss for both sides and blah, 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 blah. I was like sitting there thinking to myself, I can't imagine Negan just finding out about this and doing something. I kind of got the weird feeling like he wanted to leave it to the last minute. And the reason I say that is because for a long time I've said to you guys that I feel like Rick and some people around Rick almost have this bubble wrap protection. Like they would never be harmed, they would never be killed, simply because Negan would lose Rick's compliance. If you kill someone that close to him, you're gonna break him, right? Break him beyond belief, to the point where we've only really seen it, like, when Laurie died. So I didn't believe that Negan was just gonna say, hear about this whole plan and then just attack. I genuinely feel like when Negan was standing up on that ridge, and Rick had shown up with our entire group, and we were fighting our fight, and grasping an opportunity, when he stood there and said, you don't know what's coming. And then he sort of went on to say about how, like, about who can win this war, and he doesn't want to lose all these people, and he understands that he might not win this, but Rick doesn't genuinely know what's about to come. I honestly now in my mind think that he was warning Rick not to take that step, because then he would be left in a situation when all bets would be off, and the last resort to try and stop Rick, break him, if you're not going to whip him into compliance, break him so he can't lead, all these different things. The final resort would be to go after Carl and Judith. And that's why I think we got those scenes above two graves, and that's why I think we got those scenes of Rick being broken and almost in delusion. Now that theory sucks, and it makes me want to cry, because I'm thinking to myself, if I take a step back and look at that from a writer's perspective, me just coming up with that on the spot gives me goosebumps, in the sense I'm like, that would be a crazy, I don't know, like, it freaks me out. So I had this vision, I was like having these not fantasies, I was envisioning it the other night, and I was laying in bed imagining how this all could unravel. Negan hears about betrayal because he's captured Dwight's wife, and then Dwight's had to bargain, and he's got something huge to bargain with because he knows about what Alexandria's doing. He then learns about the thing. He then holds his position and waits. He's got a plan to battle back, but he waits to see if this actually goes through, because I don't think he wants to hurt Carl or hurt these people for no reason. Like, I've sort of said this about this character, he doesn't do something for no reason, right? I don't see in my heart, I don't genuinely believe that he would just lash out and do it, unless he genuinely had lost complete compliance. So I think that's happened. He's waited. Rick's shown up. They've shot up the place. The order then automatically, despite Negan being in a little cabin with Gabriel, the order automatically is to then go for the kids. Go for Alexandria. We have seen nothing of Alexandria. We've just seen our fights with the compounds. That's it. Everyone's all hands on deck bar a few. And if Dwight knew that certain characters were staying behind, he would understand that the weak spot would become Alexandria. The last resort then is, if we are attacked, there are a bunch of people specifically that go straight to Alexandria. Now I have this vision, this weird vision of, this is going to sound really messed up, but this is genuinely the first thing that popped to mind. Us winning part of the war, us making a huge step in the right direction, then us returning home and two bodies being strung up as a message. Carl and Judith. I don't think Carl survives. And I genuinely said in my mind that I thought he would be a legacy character and all of this stuff, but I've spoken time and time again, and it has been staring me right in the face, that I genuinely believe if worst came to worst, the last resort would be to go for them. As a final gesture of back off, comply again, or just to break him. Don't hurt Rick, the widow, or the king. They need to be alive. Why? Because I think they need to receive a message. There's another variation of this theory, another big variation of this theory, and that's that this wasn't always the plan. Maybe there's a variation of this story where if something happens to Negan, or he is nowhere to be seen, or he's been captured, or all these different things, then there are people that go and find Judith and Carl as bargaining. In which case, maybe Negan's not compliant in killing Carl. Maybe he just wanted him as hostage or blackmail or all these different things. And so there's another side of this theory where Negan isn't quite as guilty. And that's in the sense that he's set up this plan, yes, as a last resort, but maybe he didn't intend for it to go the way it did or as far as it did, or maybe he needed to be there. Maybe someone else takes charge. Maybe someone else jumps in and does the deed. Maybe. But anyway, I think he was warning Rick. And I think we're about to lose someone huge. I don't think Carl or Judith live beyond season 8. It's because of all that. Because of Dwight, because of Negan, because we don't have a choice, because we've been put in a lock this entire time, and the minute we take that leap of faith, there are going to be contingencies. He's not a dumb person. But anyway, it's made me not want to watch the episode now. The sad thing is I'm almost certain I'm right, because I don't think I was supposed to piece together those two lines. But I've been theorizing this for such a long time. My feeling of him is fine-tuned so much to the point where I feel like he wouldn't do anything for no reason. But if he's got a reason, and if it's a last resort, and if he genuinely feels like they are about to lose, what would he do to protect his people? He's going to try and break the other leaders. He's going to try and strip them of their faith and their belief. And the best way to do that is to go for people they care about very much. Whether it's a part of Negan's plan, whether Negan would have wanted it to follow through, I don't know. There's a real question about whether Negan would have killed Carl. There was a scene not too long ago before Shiva showed up and they all showed up and he was about to do it. Well, we thought he was. I thought he was at the time. But now that I look at it again, now that I look back, in my reaction I said I think he would have done it. I take that back. Because my theory now is that he was never going to do that. He was never going to kill Carl because he knew that was a last resort, and he had us on our knees. Why would he go that extra step, especially a step that would break Rick, which is what he doesn't want, because then what's the point in having this hold over us? Because it's not just being a tyrant, it's about producing for their group and all those kinds of things. There's a purpose to his actions. Killing Rick doesn't serve those purposes. Killing someone close to Rick doesn't serve those purposes, so I don't think he would have done it back then. That's mad how much that's changed, right? But because he now must be so desperate, we've fully attacked their compound, their home is destroyed, a bunch of their people are killed. This is last resort territory, and that's why I'm theorizing this crap. If we do get some big arc for Negan, he is going to regret every second of what's about to come. And it I cannot express to you how frustrated it makes me just thinking. But anyway, guys, look, that is all I'm going to say in this Beyond the What. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys enjoy the reaction, which should come out probably within a few days after this. If you remember, it should come out pretty soon after this. This season has to be, for me, one of the most highly anticipated ones, for me at least, to see how people feel about the episodes and everything. But holy shoot. For God's sakes. Yeah, I've spoken a whole bunch. And we're about to get into The Walking Dead. So, thank you guys all so much for watching. And you guys know the drill. I'll see you in the next episode.